allow me to take you back to 1775 for just a moment. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God! I know not what course others may take. But as for me, give me liberty or give me death. That was the end of the speech that Patrick Henry delivered on March 23, 1775, to the Virginia House of Burgesses. His speech was mythicized to be the rallying cry that sparked the American Revolution. While that fact may be debatable, there is no doubt that his words held a lot of weight with the colonists. His call to action had great impact to the audience and indeed moved them to defend themselves from the British. Patrick Henry was born in the colony of Virginia on May 29, 1736. He grew up in a small town in Hanover County. Born to a middle-class family, he was schooled by his father with very little actual public schooling. After several failed attempts at starting a business with his brother, he became a lawyer in 1760. According to the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation's biography on Henry, in 1763, arguing the famed Parsons cause in Hanover County, Patrick Henry proclaimed that a king who would veto a good and necessary law made by a locally elected representative body was not a father to his people, but a tyrant who forfeits the allegiance of his subjects. This illustrates that from even early on, Henry had a deep hatred for the injustice the British government had committed. 2 years after the case of the Parsons cause, Henry was elected to an empty spot in the Virginia House of Burgesses. In the Encyclopedia of Virginia, the House of Burgesses is described as an assembly of elected individuals that met from 1643 to 1776. This democratically elected legislative body was the first of its kind in English North America. As a proactive and newly elected Burgess in the House, Henry made a series of resolutions for the British Stamp Act laws. In the Encyclopedia Britannica section on Patrick Henry, it was stated that his resolutions were met with cries of treason. However, he replied in kind by saying, "If this be treason, make the most of it." The Stamp Act of 1765 was one of the many taxations enacted following the 7 Years' War by British Parliament. This tax was levied on the colonists, requiring that all printed materials be taxed outright. This was done in order to maintain the standing British Army in the colonies. As did many of the other colonists, Henry found the tax to be unfair, as it was enacted by Parliament that was in Britain. Colonists couldn't vote for members of Parliament, and so he found it unfair. The revolution was brewing underneath the surface of all of these events. And in 1775, Henry made a rallying cry for the members of the House to take action and defend themselves from the British troops. His call to arms for liberty or death is his ultimate claim to fame and arguably sparked the revolution itself. The Battle of Lexington and Concord took place shortly after he delivered his speech, which inevitably led to the full-scale battle for independence. It is arguable that his actions allowed for the colonists to start fighting back before the British took back control. Henry had to convince the apprehensive Virginians of taking action. According to the article, Road to Independence, published by the Jamestown-Yorktown Foundation, the British Empire offered a number of benefits. The colonies enjoyed protection of the world's greatest navy and one of the world's best armies. These were both reasons why the colonists were apprehensive to leave the British Empire, as well as fighting against it. Many colonists saw it as an impossibility, which Henry had to convince them otherwise. But what about the speech itself? Patrick Henry, of course, had already developed an excellent oratory reputation. His well-formed words made an excellent impression on his audiences. The other burgesses of the house were, interestingly enough, not the only audience of his speech, but it is arguable that his audience was every colonist willing to fight for their liberty. He changed the minds of the leaders, and with it, he was able to change the mind of the entire colony of Virginia. Henry did exactly what he set out to do with his speech. He stood in front of a crowd of men frozen with uncertainty and fear and told them exactly what they must do. And so they did it. His purpose was unarguably to motivate the hesitant masses of Virginia to take action against the British. He had two objectives that he achieved throughout his speech. First, he needed to convince the members of the House that action must be taken. Second, he needed to motivate them into taking that action swiftly and forcefully. His speech advocated for the hesitation of the colony to cease and to make their move. His speech was set in a time of history where nearly every day would account toward the final outcome. In the context of the times, his actions made the colonists spring into action and to fight for their liberty. It is difficult to look at history in a hypothetical retrospect. What would have happened had the speech not been given? Would there even be a United States? These are questions that we cannot answer because the moment was so pivotal in the development of this nation that we can never be certain what would have occurred had Patrick Henry never delivered his famous ultimatum. Thank you.